Welcome to video number 2, and if you are coming to this video first, please check out the video description where I'll have a link for video number 1 of this project that will explain everything that you're going to need. The rest of you, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so now we're going to come back all the way with the front side facing again after this low front ridge row, and let's go ahead and take a look at the stitches that you're going to be working in. This is the remaining loop right here. So this is where we're going to start. Maintain the use of the size H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter hook on this particular row. All right, so let's go ahead and do our slip knot. And we're going to join with a chain, and we're going to work single crochets in each loop. So go ahead and work this all the way until you get to the blue field. When you get to the blue field, just continue using the same hook and work the 2 stitch. So go ahead and work this all the way across. This is row 72. And then go ahead and begin row 73 and work the blue field until we get to the center where we will begin the arrow stitch. All right, so go ahead and finish the next 1.5 rows, or 1 1/3. So now we're on row 73. We went ahead and started that back at the beginning of the blue field with that double stitch. We have 1 more stitch to work. Let's go ahead and do that. And we're changing back to the white yarn. Pull that through. Going to do something really important again. We're going to change back to the size I hook. And now that I have found my I or 9 or 5.50 millimeter crochet hook, we are going to work the arrow stitch. This is the same that we worked. Let's go ahead and look at our throw back here. So we're basically going to repeat this, but in the white or off-white color. All right, so we're going to start off with 2 half double crochets, and then we begin the arrow stitch. Skip the next 3 stitches, treble crochet in that next stitch. Now we do have the back side facing us, so we're going to work in front of that treble crochet, and we're going to work 3 half doubles in those 3 skipped stitches. All right, let's do that again. Skip the next 3 stitches. Now let me say something here. This is the stitch that we worked that treble in. It'd be really easy to think that that was the stitch that we're going to skip. That stitch has already been spoken for, so we're going to skip the next 3. 1, 2, 3, and then in that next stitch we work that treble crochet, and then working in front of that stitch we work 3 or 1 in each of the 3 skipped stitches, working those half double crochets. All right, and then when you look at the front side, you do see that treble crochet forming half of our arrow. So go ahead and work this all the way across. This row will end with 2 half doubles in the last, or 1 half double in each of the last 2 unworked stitches. So go ahead and finish row 73. At the end of row 73, we end with 2 half double crochets. So let's turn for row 74. And again, this is a review. We're going to chain 2 half doubles in those first 2 stitches. And then we begin the next row of the arrow stitch. Skip the next 3 stitches, treble in that next stitch, which should also be the same stitch where you worked a treble in the previous row. Working behind that stitch, we're going to work half doubles in each of those 3 stitches that we just skipped. I'll do this one more time as a refresher. Skip the next 3 stitches, treble in the next, and again make sure that when you work this treble crochet that it's in the same stitch as the treble from the previous row, and then half doubles in each of those 3 stitches that you skipped, and make sure that you're working them behind the treble crochet so that you now have your arrow formed. So go ahead and work this until you get to the blue field. So I'm going to work these 2 half doubles with you since we have a yarn change and a hook change. So go ahead and drop that yarn and bring back that blue, navy blue. And it's time to change out the hook size. We're going back down to the size H, or 8 or 5.50 millimeter crochet hook for the blue field. So go ahead and return to that 2 stitch, which is the single crochet and then the double crochet. So go ahead and work that to the end, and then go ahead and start the next row, which would be row 75, and go ahead and work the blue field to this point, and then I'll show you what to do after that. All right, here is the yarn color change, and we're going to keep the same hook after we do this. Okay, yarn over, pull through 2, and then we're going back to the off-white yarn and pull that on through. Now, working in the top loops only, we're going to keep, like I said before, to keep the same size H crochet hook, and we are going to work single crochets in each of these 144 stitches across. Okay, and that will end that row. So now for row 76 and onward, what we're going to do, let's go ahead and turn, face this side. So we are going to work just what we did here. Now, if you want me to refer you back to this row on how to do this reverse arrow, you can look across the bottom of the screen and I'll show you where you can do that. Now, the main difference is after we work the row with the single crochet is we're actually going to work row 70, let's see, 2, 3, 4, that's 74, then 73, and then the row of single crochet, and then row 73, and then 74, and then the row of single crochets. Be careful that you are changing your hook to the H when you're working the blue field and the row of single crochet. When you're working the arrow stitch rows, make sure you are working with the size I or size 9. Okay, so I hope that's clear. When you're working this arrow, the next time you work it, the arrow is going to go the other direction, and that's because we're going to work this row and then this row. Just know that whenever you're working with the front side facing, you work behind the treble, and when you have the back side facing you, you work those double crochets in front of that treble. As long as you're doing that, your arrows will be fine. So go ahead and work the next 6 rows. This is what you should have with the 8th stripe, and this is after completing 81 rows. All right, so now just to verify, it's very much like the red stripe. Arrows going this way, then this way, and then this way, with that row of single crochets in between the arrows. All right, now for the next row, which is row 82, we are still using our larger hook, which is the I or 9 or 5.50 millimeter crochet hook, and we're going to work that low front ridge, chain 1, skip that first stitch, and then slip stitch into the front loop only of the next 143 stitches, since we skipped that first one. So we're going to work this all the way across until we get to the blue field, and then this will be our last slip stitch, and then we will fasten off with a chain just like we did right over here with that first red stripe. And then we're not going to continue on into the blue field. We're going to go all the way back to the beginning to start row 83. Okay, so technically row 82 is just going to be 2/3 of the way across, and then it will stop. All right, so go ahead and work that. So just to be clear, I fastened off with a chain and have left a nice strand to be woven in at the end. Now we're going to be working in the remaining loop, but before we do that, we're going to go all the way to the beginning of this row. Sorry for all the motion here. We're dealing with a larger project here. It's just growing beautifully. All right, so now we're going to add our red back. Okay, we're going to add our red to that remaining loop, but before we do that, we're going to have to change to the smaller H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook. And I'm going to start in this loop, and if you're not sure, look at the back side, and yes, that is the first loop, first stitch. So we're just working in that remaining loop. All right, go ahead and catch that again, and let's go ahead and get our slip knot started. And do a chain and give a little tug. Now we're going to work 2 single crochets, and then we're going to go right into our foundation. So for this next stitch, so we're going to do those 2 single crochets, and the next one is where we're going to start our primrose foundation. So what we're going to do is we're going to work single crochet, chain 2, and then a single crochet in that same space. Okay, skip 2 stitches, and then the next we work a single crochet, chain 2, and then another single crochet like that. Skip 2 stitches, and then in the next stitch, single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet. So we're going to work this all the way until we get to the blue field, and I will show you how to work the last stitch, which will be just a single crochet in that last stitch, but I want to go ahead and make sure that it works out as I work this across the row. So go ahead and work that. All right, so we have worked this single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, all the way across. You should have 1 stitch left. Just make that into a single crochet, but let's actually take that back out because we need to finish this with a yarn change. It's going to put that white strand back a ways. All right, so we bring in the blue, and then we return to our 2 stitch on the blue field, single crochet, and then double crochet, single crochet, and double crochet. So go ahead and work this all the way across, and then we're going to turn to begin row 84 until you get back to this section, and then I'll show you the color change, and I will also show you the stitch that we're going to work on that following row. All right, I'm going to do this last stitch, and then we're going to complete it with the red yarn. Let's go ahead and do that, and you can just give this a little tug so that stitch will come back into shape. So after having pulled that loop through, we have 1 stitch to work. We're going to work a half double crochet into that first stitch. Now we're not going to work in any of the single crochets as part of this primrose stitch, but we're only going to work in the chain 2 space, and we're going to work 3 half double crochets. Now I do have other designs out where we work double crochets, but due to the height that we're trying to keep even, we're going to work 3 half double crochets, and we're just going to work that in all of the chain 2 spaces. So that's basically what we're going to do with this stitch. So go ahead and work this all the way across, and I will show you how this ends. And let me just flip it for you a little bit, and so you can see how the front side facing will look. I think this is going to be a very beautiful stitch. So now at the end of row 84, we are going to skip this single crochet, which is part of the primrose stitch, and then we're just going to work half doubles into the last 2 stitches. Okay, so now let's go ahead and turn for row 85. We're going to chain 2. We're going to work half doubles in those first 2 stitches. Now for row 85, this is going to be one of the repeatable rows. Rows 84 and 85 are going to be the 2 rows that we repeat, and this is all we're going to do. We're going to skip of this 3 stitch half double crochet cluster. We're going to skip the first stitch. We're going to work a half double, chain 2, a half double in that center stitch, and that's what we're going to do. Skip the next stitch and the next stitch, and in the next center stitch we work single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. So we're going to work that across the row. Single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. Okay, make sure that you are skipping these other 2 stitches, but when you're skipping, make sure that you end up in the center stitch of that next cluster. All right, so let me pause so that you see how this looks. So go ahead and work that until you get to the blue field, and I will show you how to switch colors there. Now as we get to the blue field, make sure that we're going to skip this stitch, which is part of that 3 stitch cluster, and then we're going to work a half double in the next one, and then we're going to pick up the blue color, and we're just going to continue on with our blue field. So go ahead, let's see, we're going to start with a single crochet and then our double crochet. So go ahead and finish the blue field to the end, and then start the next row, and then I'll meet you back here. Now I've gone ahead and worked the blue field for row 86, and to the point where we're going to switch the yarn color. We're going to go ahead and pull that through just like that. You can see that. Now for the rest of this row, we are simply going to, well, first of all, work a half double at the very beginning of the row, and then after that skip to the chain 2, and we're going to work 3 half doubles into the chain 2 space, and I'll of course need to add some yarn to this, and so that's what we're going to work all the way across the row. So go ahead and complete row 86. After that, I'm going to give you a small assignment. I want you to look across the bottom of the screen. It'll tell you which rows these will be. Then what we're going to do is we're going to repeat rows 85 and 86 a few more times. But again, just for specific numbers, look across the bottom of your screen. And just be sure that you're switching colors just like we've been doing when you get to the blue field. All right, so go ahead and work those rows, finishing out this stripe. So this is the primrose section. After 5 total sets, that would be 4 repeats. So we have 1 complete set, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, or a total of 10 rows for this section. Now here is the 11th row, but before we do this, we're going to have to switch back to our larger I or 9 or 5.50 millimeter crochet hook, and we are going to work that row of low front ridge. Go ahead and give it a chain 1. Again, skipping that first stitch and working only in the front loop. We're going to work those slip stitches just in the red section, which would be 144, actually 143 total stitches since we skipped the first one. Now, one thing you want to be careful of as you work this across, be careful not to accidentally hook the extra loop, or the third bar, sometimes this is called. So we want to make sure that we're looking at the top of the work where we see the V, and we want that first loop, the front loop, to be hooked only. So go ahead and work the slip stitches all the way until you get to the blue field, and then you're going to fasten off like we have the last couple of stripes, and then I will rejoin with you to begin the following row. So after fastening that row off before the blue field, this is row 93. We're not going to complete the rest of that, but we're going to go on to row 94. So keeping the front side facing, and we're going to go back and work in the remaining loops. And we're going to be using our other hook. So we're going to go ahead and change back to the smaller H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook, and we're going to work a row of single crochets in this section. And let me go ahead and get us started. Again, you can look at the back side to see that the first stitch is right here, and this is where we're going to work in the remaining loop across. So we'll go ahead and join with our slip knot again. I hope I'm not driving you crazy changing out the hooks, but this is pretty important to help keep this all as even as we can. Okay, so we join with the chain 1. I'm going to go ahead and single crochet in this stitch, and in the next, and in the next. I'm going to do this over 144 stitches, and then we're going to switch to the blue field. So go ahead and just work these single crochets across, and when you get to the blue field here, just continue on in pattern stitch with the single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, double crochet all the way across. So after completing row 94, I've gone ahead and worked the blue field to begin row 95. And let's go ahead and make the color change right here on that last stitch, which is going to be a double crochet. Let's go ahead and bring this yarn forward since we have the back side facing. Pick up the white and do that. And now for each of these stitches, working through both loops, we're going to work half double crochets all the way across these 144 stitches. And then after that, we'll begin the small honeycomb cable. So go ahead and finish those half double crochets. And we're going to start with a chain 2, and we're going to half double crochet in the first 4 stitches, and I am using my I or 9 or 5.50 millimeter crochet hook. I have switched from the smaller hook for this row because there is going to be some compression with the stitches. So after those first 4 stitches, we're going to begin. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and we're going to work front post treble crochets in the next 2 stitches. Okay, now this is the back cross that we worked. Remember working this several stripes back with the wheat stitch. So we're going to come into the back section here, that back opening, and we're going to work front post trebles in the 2 stitches that we just skipped. I did spend a lot more time on this on the wheat cable, so hopefully you'll remember what we did back then, because the row that we're working is basically the same. The only difference is that we are starting with 4 stitches at the beginning and we will end with 4 stitches, and this has to do with just the stitch multiple now that it is shortened, since we have the blue field to deal with as well. So now we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, and then working in front of those last 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble into the 2 stitches that we just skipped. Just like that. And so that the last 8 stitches we will work again, and this is what we're going to work across the row. Skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Working behind these 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 2 skipped stitches, again coming into this opening, and if you need to, you can pull those 2 stitches that we've already completed down, so you can see that we are working a front post, and then come in again for that second stitch that was skipped. And understandably, the back cross that this is a back cross, they're a little more challenging. Skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble in those next 2 stitches, and working in front of those 2 stitches, front post treble into the 2 stitches that we just skipped. All right, so we're going to work this all the way until we get to the blue field. And remember, when you get to the blue field, don't forget to switch back to the size H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter. And as we work all the way across before we get to the blue field, I will just show you that transition, but we will have 4 half doubles to crochet before that blue field, and I will work that with you. Now that we've worked the base stitch for the honeycomb, let me just clarify, I did say that this was the same as the wheat. It actually isn't, because we're not adding the stitches in between. We want these honeycombs to flow into each other, so it is a little bit different. So I hope I didn't confuse anybody on that. Well, anyway, we come to the end of this section. We're going to work 4 half doubles, and I'm going to work this last one with you because we're going to need to switch. We're going to switch to that blue yarn, and we're also going to change our hook size. Let's go on back down to the H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter. Don't worry, this will all work out. We want this blue field to be as even as possible, which is why we're sticking with the same hook. And when we come back the next row, we're going to maintain using the blue hook through the blue field and through the second row of this this honeycomb stitch. Okay, so go ahead and continue with the blue field, working the double stitch, the single crochet, double crochet, alternating those 2 stitches across, and then go ahead and begin the following row. The row coming back the other direction will be row 97, and it will have the back side facing. So go ahead and finish row 96 and then begin by working the blue field for row 97, and then I'll meet you back here for how to proceed. Now we have finished the blue field for row 97, and we're going to actually work the last stitch. Bring that yarn to the front since we have the back side facing us, and we join with that white or off-white yarn. And now for this second part, we're going to work we're going to keep the same hook, okay? Make sure you're using the smaller hook. We're going to work those 4, I can pull the threads through, 4 half double crochets, now working over those post stitches, we're going to work back post double crochets all the way across the row, and when you get to the last 4 stitches, we're going to work half double crochets. All right, and as you work over these 4 stitch crosses, make sure you have 4 stitches worked over them. So again, back post double crochets using that H hook. Go ahead and finish out row 97, and then I'll show you how to start the next row. Now we're ready to start row 98, but not until we change back to our size I or 9 or 5.50 millimeter crochet hook. This is the larger hook. So just in a nutshell, what we're going to be doing is when the front side is facing us and we're working these front and back post, or actually front post treble crochets, we're going to use the larger hook. When we're working with the back side facing us and we're working those back post double crochets across, we're going to be working the smaller with the smaller hook. So I just wanted to make some extra clarifications there. So for row 98, we're going to chain 2. We're going to half double in those first 4 stitches. Now after that, we are going to work our post stitches, but where we worked a back cross here, instead we're going to work a front cross, which looks like this. We're going to work that here, and then this back cross we're going to work over here. So what's going to happen is it's going to close up this this shape to make it look like a honeycomb. So go ahead, skip 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of those 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in those 2 skipped stitches. On the other side, skip 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Now this is where we work behind these 2 stitches. We can come in again, that back opening, and we're going to work front post trebles in those 2 stitches that we just skipped. And then again into the opening, using again my nerve endings in my tall man finger and my thumb to locate this stitch, and then it makes it so much easier just to complete just like that. So you can see that you have this opening like a honeycomb. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do that again. Skip 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2, working in front of those last 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the stitches that we just skipped. And then for the other side, skip 2, front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Now working behind these last 2 stitches, we're going to work front post trebles here and then here. So here's the first one. I just wanted you to see how this looks because there are no half doubles in between the stitches like there were in the wheat stitch rows. Okay, so you see how you have a honeycomb formed here and a honeycomb formed there. So as you work your way across, be careful that you're alternating a front cross and a back cross, front cross, back cross. And after you complete this section, I encourage you strongly to go back and do a quick visual check to make sure that you've done what you intended to do. All right, so go ahead and work this all the way until you get to the blue field, which is right here, and then you will have 4 half double crochets, and we're going to switch the yarn color here. And then when we get to the blue field, again, just as a reminder, don't forget to go back to your size H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook, and then go ahead and start row 99 by working the blue field to this point. Again, of course, the back side will be facing for row 99. So go ahead and work that. Now this is row 99. I've already gone and done the blue field. We're going to stick with the same hook since the back side is facing. And this is the last stitch, and I'm changing to the white or off-white color. Now we're going to start row 99, and this is actually row 4 of the small honeycomb stitch. So before we do that, we're going to work those 4 half double crochets, and then just like we did on the second row of this stitch, we're going to work back post double crochets across the row, and then when we get to the last 4 stitches, we work 4 half double crochets worked into the top loops. Okay, so go ahead and work row 99, and then I'll have a small assignment for you. So after completing row 99, I want you to complete rows 96, 97, and 98 one time more, and then I'll show you what to do from there. And just to give you a good view of the honeycomb, you should have 2 completed honeycombs here, and as you can see, it forms other honeycombs along this side, which is a really fun pattern. And I've worked the blue field, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn this around, and we're going to be working with the back side facing, and I'll give you some more instructions. Okay, so for the record, I am still using a 5.00 millimeter crochet hook or size H. I'm just experimenting with some newer crochet hooks, and I'll be coming out with a video on that shortly, or it may already be on the channel depending on the release date of this particular throw. All right, so let's go ahead and do that last stitch where we do a double crochet, and then we bring the yarn over here and then join the white yarn. So we're going to work half double crochets, again keeping the same smaller crochet hook. We're going to work half doubles in those first 4 stitches, and then we're going to work back post double crochets all the way across until we get to the last 4 stitches, which will be 4 half double crochets. So go ahead and work that across. I'll work a couple more of these with you, just back post double crochets, again using that smaller hook. Just like so. So this is where we are after 103 rows. Now we're going to change out from the small crochet hook back to the larger. This is the I or 9 or 5.50 millimeters. So we'll go ahead and do a chain 1. We're going to skip the first stitch, and then working only in the front loops, we're just going to work that slip stitch all the way until we get to the blue field, just like we've done already. When we get to the blue field, we're going to fasten off. We're not going to work this row, which is row 104. We're not going to work this over the blue field. And then we'll start row 105 back with the front side facing after we finish this section all the way. Again, working only on the off-white yarn. Now we're ready to start the 11th stripe, and we're going to start with row 105. First thing we're going to do is switch back to our smaller hook, and again we're going to use the remaining loop from that half double crochet row, which is right here. So just in case you're not sure which of these loops to go in, and I'm going to join with my slip knot. And a chain, and then I'm going to work just single crochets across the stripe portion all the way across, and when I get to the blue field we will switch to the blue yarn and just continue in pattern stitch on the blue field with the double stitch, single crochet, double crochet in the appropriate places. So go ahead and work row 105. So now we're at row 106. I've gone ahead and worked the blue field portion, and we have one stitch to complete, and that would be that double crochet. So after bringing that yarn forward, we're going to complete that stitch with the red. After pulling this red color through, we're going to start the foundation for the wavy cable, and what we're going to do is work 2 half doubles at the beginning, and at the end of this row we will also have 2 half doubles. After working those 2 half doubles, we're going to work back post double crochets, 1 in each of the next 3 stitches. Now you can look at the front to make sure that you don't accidentally double dip on these stitches. So that's 1, 2, and 3. We're going to work a half double in the next stitch, which is right here. Now let me tell you why I'm not working this one, because we've already worked a post stitch around this stitch, so you're going to have to be careful on this. It would be really easy to get off. All right, so we bring a half double in the next stitch, and then 3 more back post double crochets. In the next stitch, we're going to work a wattle stitch, which just simply serves as a spacer. And the way we do that is we work a single crochet, a chain 1, and a double crochet into that same place. Now when we come back the next row, we're only going to work in the chain 1 space that's created by this. All right, and then now we're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then we're going to work 3 more back post double crochets. We're going to repeat this again. 3 back post double crochets. It's 2 and 3, and then we're going to work a half double worked into the next stitch, which is right here. Like I said before, be careful not to double dip on these stitches, and then 3 more back post double crochet. Let me try that one again. Sometimes working at these strange angles with the camera in between you and the work can be a little bit challenging. That's 2 and 3. And stop and make sure we have 3 back post, a half double, 3 back post, and then the next stitch, which is here, we work a wattle stitch, which again is the spacer stitch. Single crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. And I'll just start the next stitch, since after you work a wattle stitch on the foundation row, you always skip the next 2 stitches, and then we're back to working 3 back post double crochets. So this is actually a 10 stitch repeat, and over 144 stitches you're going to be working the foundations or these repeats 14 times, and that's including the first time we worked it, so it's actually 13 repeats, but 14 total foundations, which is 3 back post, half double, 3 back post, and a wattle stitch, skip 2 stitches, okay? And then at the beginning of the row, 2 half double crochets, and then at the end of the row you'll end with 2 half double crochets. All right, so go ahead and finish out this row. At the end of row 106, we worked the wattle stitch, skip 2 stitches, and then half doubles in the last 2 stitches. So let's go ahead and turn for row 107. We're going to work a chain 2, and then I'm going to change back to my size I or 9 hook. So now that we've got the larger hook, we're going to work half double crochets in those first 2 stitches. And now this is where the fun begins with the crossing of these larger cables. Okay, we do have a wattle stitch, so we're going to work a wattle stitch, which is single crochet, chain 1, double crochet into that chain 1 space. Okay, so now we have the base, these 7 stitches, which they were 3 back post from the last row, but of course they present themselves as front post here, half double, and then 3 more post stitches. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip those first 3 post stitches. We're going to work a half double crochet into the top loops of that half double crochet. We are going to work 3 front post trebles, 1 in each of the next 3 stitches. And then working in front of those last 4 stitches, that would be the 3 post stitches and the half double, we're going to come back and work front post trebles here, here, and here. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and try that one more time. Wrap it twice. Come all the way over here. It feels like you're reaching all the way across a large distance. Okay, so the first stitch, then the second, and then the third. Second, and then the third stitch, which is right here. And then we go to the wattle stitch. We just go into that chain 1 space and we work a single crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. I'm going to do that for you one more time, and then this is what we're going to do all the way across. Okay, skip the next 3 stitches or the post stitches, half double into that half double crochet, front post trebles into the next 3 stitches, working in front of those last 4 stitches, that would be the 3 post and the half double. Come all the way back here, and we're going to work front post trebles in those 3 stitches that we just skipped. It's 1, 2, and 3. And then a wattle stitch into the chain 1 space of the wattle stitch from the last row, just like that. So go ahead and work that all the way across. So we're going to work that until we cross the last cable, and then we'll have 2 half doubles, and then when you're completing that last half double of the 144 stitches of the red, then you're going to switch back to the blue. Where is it? Okay, here we go. Switch back to the blue yarn, and then work the blue field with the double stitch, which would be the single crochet, double crochet, alternating, and then go ahead and begin the next row, which is row 108, and work that blue field, and I'll join you back here. So for row 108, I've gone ahead and worked the blue field, and it's time for us to now change back to the red. So we'll go ahead and grab that red color. We are keeping the small H hook. Now on the previous row, we were using the size I hook, and then we switched to the H when we got to the blue field, just for clarity on that. And again, we're going to stick with the smaller hook for this row with the back side facing. We're going to work half double in those first two half doubles. Now we're going to be working on the back side of these cables that were crossed. So what we're going to do is back post, double crochet in the next 3 stitches. Now we're going to do something that we haven't done before in this project. We're going to work a half double crochet in between the last stitch and the next stitch, and this is where those this is going to be the center of where these 2 columns crossed. Put a half double crochet in there. And for you mathematicians who are worried about adding a stitch, we're actually going to skip the half double crochet here that we used to make this cable, thereby keeping the stitch count constant. All right, so now we're going to work 3 more back post double crochets. And then, again, like I said before, we're skipping this half double, and then we're going to work a wattle stitch into the wattle stitch. Just like that, a single crochet, chain 1, half double, worked into that chain space. And that's what we're going to work all the way across the row. I'll do it for you one more time. Back post, double crochet, that's right, back post, double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. Now, in case you're wondering, these are the stitches that are going to be on top. If you can feel that with your fingers, with your non-dominant hand. And then before we get to the back side of those, we're going to work a half double in the middle. That's in between that last stitch and next stitch. And then we come back for 3 more back post double crochets. Okay, and then again skipping this half double, and then we work into the wattle stitch just like that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to work that repeat all the way across the row, and then at the end you're going to have 2 half double crochets, just half double into those stitches. So go ahead and finish this row. So this is what you should have after completing 108 rows, and after completing 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of stripe number 11. All right, so now for the next row, we're going to chain 2. We're going to hang on to the small H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook. We're going to half double into those first 2 half double crochets. After that, we're going to work a wattle stitch, worked again into the chain 1 space. That's a single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, which constitutes a wattle stitch. Now it's going to be easy for this row. We're just going to work over this cable. We're going to work 3 front post double crochets. We're going to work a half double, worked into that half double, and 3 more half double crochets, and that's what we're going to work across the row. And at the end, or before you get to the blue field, you're going to have 2 half double crochets. So what you're going to do is switch to the blue color on that second half double crochet, and then continue on again with the same hook over the blue field, working the double stitch, which is the single crochet, double crochet. So go ahead and do that, and then begin the next row with the blue field, and then I will meet you where the colors will change, and then I'll show you what to do on the following row. Now we're on row 110, and I've gone ahead and worked across with the blue field, still using that size H or 8 or 5.00 crochet hook, and we're going to continue using it for this entire row. I'm going to work the last stitch, bring that blue yarn forward since we have the back side facing, and bring in the red, and then this is what we're going to do for row 110 along the red stripe. We work 2 half double crochets, and then working over the cable portion, we're going to work 3 back post double crochets, and then a half double worked into the top loops of that half double, and 3 more back post double crochets, when we get to the wattle stitch, we work only in the chain 1 space and work that wattle stitch, which is the single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then we repeat that across. At the end of the row, you're going to have an additional 2 half double crochets. So go ahead and finish out row 110. Now for row 111, we're going to switch to the larger, which is the I or 9 or 5.50 millimeter crochet hook. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do a chain 2, and this is going to be another row of crossing of the cables, but in a different way. So we're going to work those 2 half double crochets, then we have a wattle stitch. We will work in that chain 1 space of the wattle stitch from the last row, and now the fun begins. Remember, we worked back crosses in earlier designs like the wheat and the honeycomb, so we're going to do one of those this time, but we have more stitches to work with, so we're going to skip the next 3 stitches, half double in that next half double, working in the top loops. We're going to work front post treble crochets in each of the next 3 stitches, okay. Now we're going to be working the back cross. So after completing those 4 stitches, we are going to prepare for another front post treble, but we're going to come in to this hole from the back side, and we're going to work front post trebles here, here, and here. So I've wrapped the hook twice, come in, and then using the nerve endings in my thumb and finger, and I've located this first stitch, and using my thumb and finger to guide that hook, I'm able to complete the stitch. And then we're going to do that again. Come into that same hole. I've selected the second stitch, which again, the nerve endings in my fingers help me a lot more than my eyes do in this situation. And the third one is right there, waiting. And again, using my thumb to help me manipulate that hook around that stitch. Awkward at first, yes, but once you've done it a couple of times and understand what is going on, it really does kind of grow on you, get easier, and the more repetitions you do, the better. And after that, we're going to work the wattle stitch. Okay, so I'm going to do that with you one more time. Let's get some more yarn. Skip the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, half double, working into the top loops of that half double, front post treble in the next 3 stitches, all right. Now coming in to the back, from the back side, we're going to work here, here, and here. Again, use those, your finger and the thumb, to find the stitches. That's 1. And the second stitch is right here. 2. And 3. And then after that, we work the wattle stitch. So we are going to work this all the way across, and let's take a look at that section. This is getting quite large, so this isn't easy to do so much. All right, so once we get this last cable crossed, we're just going to go immediately into 2 half doubles, and then on this half double you're going to switch to the blue yarn, and we're going to continue that double stitch, single crochet, double crochet, etc. And then go ahead on the next row and come back the other direction on the blue field. Now when you get to the blue field, don't forget you're going to be switching to the smaller H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook. All right, so go ahead and finish this row and then do the blue field of the following row. So now we're on row 112, and I've already worked the blue field, and I'm about to work that last stitch, which is a double crochet. Bring the blue over, go ahead and connect, finish that stitch with the red. And this row is going to be similar to what you did back after the last cable crossing. We have those 2 half double crochets. After that, we're going to work 3 back post double crochets. That's the second one, and the third right there. Then we're going to work a half double in between that last stitch and the next stitch. So there's not a specific stitch, it's just where the 2 columns cross. So stick a half double crochet there, and then 3 more back post double crochets. Okay, and after that we are skipping a half double, which is hiding back there. I just say that for all you mathematicians, just to let you know that the stitch count does stay constant, especially when you consider that the wattle stitches are a 3 stitch cluster. And then we get to that wattle stitch and we work a wattle stitch in that chain 1 space, and that's going to be the repeat all the way across. At the end of the row, you're going to have 2 half doubles worked after that final wattle stitch. So go ahead and finish row 112. Now for row 113, we're keeping the same smaller hook, the H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook. Chain 2, and this is very similar to a row we've already worked. We're going to work 2 half double crochets and work a wattle stitch in that chain 1 space of those wattle stitches. Let's go ahead and there we go. Now for the cable portion, we're just going to work front post double crochets over those post stitches. We get to the half double. We're working a half double into the top loops of that half double, and then 3 more front post double crochets. After that, we work another wattle stitch. So we're going to work this until we get to the blue field. So when you get to the last cable, you're going to work front post double crochets over those, and then you'll have 2 half doubles to work in. Okay, so go ahead and when you get to the blue field, you will switch the yarn color on that last half double, and then continue same hook as always for the blue field, but just go ahead and finish out the blue field with the double stitch, and then chain 2 and turn and come back with that double stitch, and we will show you row 114 with the red stripe portion. So now for row 114, I've gone ahead and worked the blue field, and we have 1 stitch to go, and we're going to switch the color. Bring that blue over here, and now we bring in the red. This is going to be a half double crochet in those first 2 half double crochets. We're going to work back post double crochets over the next 3 post stitches, and we are still keeping the H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook, and then we're going to work a half double in that half double, 3 more back post double crochets, now when we get to the wattle stitch, this is what we're going to do. We're going to skip that double crochet of the wattle stitch. We're going to work 2 half doubles into that chain 1 space, and then 1 into the single crochet of the wattle stitch. And this is very important, and this is the biggest change from the previous rows where we've worked with the back side facing. So make sure with this wattle stitch that it is converted into 3 half doubles. Again, skip the double crochet, 2 half doubles in the chain 1 space, and 1 half double in the single crochet. So go ahead and work this all the way across. At the end of the row, you will have the wattle stitch that you will work like this, and then you'll have 2 additional half double crochets. So go ahead and finish out row 114. So this is what you should have after completing 114 rows. So you can see how the cable is wavy. All right, so now for row 115, we are going to change back to our large crochet hook, or the eye. So to start row 115, we're going to chain 1, skip that first stitch, and we're going to work the low front ridge, which is working those slip stitches just like we've been doing, working only in the front loop. And we're going to work this only on the red stripe portion, and then when we get to that blue field, we're not going to connect to the blue field just like we've been doing before. We're just going to fasten off. So go ahead and work row 115. And again, do not work this on the blue field. And when we come back for row 116, we're going to start in the back loop, and I'll show you that, and we'll be doing that with the white yarn again. So at the end of row 115, we fastened off, and so we will hide that eventually behind, and we are not working on this section because this is just a surface texture stitch. All right, so we're going to go back all the way to the beginning with the front side facing. Okay, now we are going to begin working with the white yarn, and we're going to start stripe number 12. So let's go ahead, and we're going to put down the larger hook, and we're going to use the size H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook. So to begin, let's take a look at the loops we're going to be working in. They're going to be working in these loops, which is the remaining loop, and this is the first one right here. So we'll start with a slip knot and a chain 2. We're also going to work a half double crochet worked into that first remaining loop, and then we're going to work a half double into each of those remaining loops until we get to the blue field. Once you get to the blue field, you know what to do. Switch to the blue colored yarn and continue in the double stitch, starting with the single crochet. So go ahead and work row 116, and go ahead and start row 117 on the blue field, and I will meet you where the blue meets the off-white. Okay, I've completed row 116, and then I've started row 117, and I have just completed all but one stitch of this blue field. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to swap to the off-white colored yarn, just like that. We're going to work half doubles in those first 2 stitches, and we are keeping the same hook, the H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook. So after those first 2 half doubles, we're going to begin the pattern stitch, which is going to be a wider staggered weave, and we're going to work 4 front post double crochets, let's skip that loop. Okay, and we're going to follow that with 4 back post double crochets, and that's basically what we are going to work across for this row. Now I know this looks surprisingly similar to what we've already worked on another stripe, but I promise you this is going to be different as we progress row by row. So go ahead and work 4 front post doubles, 4 back post doubles, and the last 2 stitches of the row are going to be 2 half double crochets. So go ahead and complete row 117. Just wanted to show you that row 117 ends with 4 front post double crochets and those 2 half doubles. So now we're going to turn. We're going to give that a chain 2. We're going to work those 2 half double crochets on the end. And again, this is the front side facing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work this in such a way that these are going to be drifting columns. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to work 3 back post double crochets. And you really do have to pay attention to this one because it's going to be our normal inclination to just put back post over back post, front post over front post. And this is what I'm going to show you now is where the pattern's going to come into play. So we've only worked 3 back post double crochets, and that's just at the beginning, okay? From the rest of the way, now we're going to turn that 1 back post into a front post. So we're going to work 4 front post double crochets, and the last stitch here of that 4 grouping from the last row, we're going to turn that to a back post. So we're going to work 4 back post double crochets. Okay. And that's what we're going to work all the way across. So I'll do that again. We're going to work 4 front post double crochets. Now when we do that, we're going to be picking up a stitch that is slightly different. If it's working a front post, we're going to start off on a back post from the previous row. Okay, do you see how that works? So we're going to count 4 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 front post double crochets. And see how you have 1 left there. We're going to turn that to a back post. And we do 4 back post double crochets. And then we just continue that pattern. So you see how this is kind of drifting a bit. So go ahead and work this until you get to the blue field, and let me show you what you're going to do there. So when you get to the blue field, you're going to have back post, back post, back post, back post, and then the last stitch here is going to be a 1 front post double crochet here, half double, and then on this half double we change to the blue, and you continue the 2 double stitch or 2 stitch, single crochet, double crochet, alternating, and then go ahead and start row 119, going from the other direction, or at least with the back side facing over the blue field, and then I'll continue on with the rest of row 119 and show you how to continue that stitch. All right, now we are to row 119, and to the stripe portion I've already switched out to the off-white yarn. We're going to work 2 half double crochets, and then we're just going to continue with this drifting idea. And so what we're going to do is we're going to work a back post and another back post. So to start this portion of row 119, we have 2 back post double crochets, and then we enter back into the 4, the multiples of 4. So we're going to work 4. Don't want to be confusing. So we're going to do 4 front post double crochets, and we're going to pick up 1 from that other grouping from the last row. That was part of that 4 grouping. And then after that, we're going to work 4 back post double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and we pick up 1 here. 4. So you can already see the pattern emerging here as we go across. So hopefully that will help you to stay on track. So let's do this again. 4 front post double crochets. Looks like I'm drifting in and out of the viewfinder with just the bulk of this blanket at this point. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then we picked up 1 from this group. So that's 4 front post double crochets, followed by 4 back post double crochets, okay, let's take another look at that and see how it's drifting. All right, and let's take a look at the end of the row so that you will know how this is going to be ending. So at the end of this row, we're going to have, this will be a front post, then we have back post, back post, back post, back post, and then you have 2 front posts here, and then half double, half double. Okay, so go ahead and finish out row 119. So again, row 119 ends with 2 front post double crochets and those 2 half double crochets. Now on to row 120. We're going to chain 2, half double in those first 2 stitches. All right, now we're going to work 1 back post double crochet, and we're going to follow that with 4 front post double crochets, just continuing in the same drifting pattern, and 4 back post double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so just go ahead and continue that all the way across. And let's take a look at the blue section. When you get to the blue field, you're going to end with 1, 2, 3 front post double crochets, those 2 half doubles, and of course switching to the blue at this point, and then working the double stitch, single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, double crochet to finish out row 120, and then go ahead and turn and continue back onto the blue field until you get to this point on row 121, and then I will show you the continuation of this drifted basket weave pattern. Now continuing with row 121, after completing the blue field, we're going to work half double crochets in those first 2 stitches. So after those first 2 half double crochets, we're going to work back post double crochets in each of the next 4 stitches. So we have the 3 stitches from the last row, and then we take 1 from that other section there, and then we work 4 front post double crochets, and that's going to be our repeat all the way across the row. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's just pause to look at the pattern that it's forming. All right, this row is going to end with 1, 2, 3, 4 back post double crochets, and then 2 half doubles. Now we're ready to start row 122, and yes, this is with the front side facing. So we're going to start with a chain 2, half double in those first 2 half doubles. So now after completing those first 2 half double crochets, we're going to work 3 front post double crochets, and then now we begin our pattern 4 back post double crochets, after those 4 back post double crochets, notice there's 1 stitch left, and we start the 4 front post double crochets right there. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's going to be the repeat until we get to the blue section, and let's take a look at that. Once we get to the blue field, this is going to be front post, front post, front post, front post, and you're going to have 1 back post double crochet right here, and then half double, and then on this half double again switch to the blue color, and then work the blue field and double stitch, and then come back and begin row 123 working that blue field and the double stitch or 2 stitch, which is again single crochet, double crochet, alternating. All right, so go ahead and work that section. So this is now row 123. I've gone ahead and done the blue field, and we're going to work the stripe. We're going to work half double half double, and now into the pattern we're going to work 1 front post, 2 front post double crochets, and then after that back to our pattern, 4 back post double crochets, and then after that we work 4 more front post double crochets to continue the pattern stitch. Okay, so go ahead and work that all the way across, and let me show you how this ends. And just to confirm, row 123 ends with 2 back posts and then the 2 half double crochets. Now we're going to turn onto row 124, chain 2, half double in those first 2 stitches, and this is going to be the last row of our pattern stitch. And let's take a look at this. We're going to work 1 front post double crochet, and then we're going to work 4 back post double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we work 4 front post double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's pause and take a look at that. So go ahead and work that until you get to the blue field, and I'll show you what you can do after that. When you get to the blue field, take a look at this group. This will be a front post, front post, front post, front post, and then you're going to have 3 back post double crochets. 1, 2, 3, working back post, half double, and that's where you change to the blue, and then go ahead and work the double stitch, single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, double crochet all the way across. And for row 125, go ahead and bring it back to this point, and then I will show you how to finish out this row. So this is now row 125. I've already worked the blue field. Now this is going to be a little different than what we've been doing. Okay, we're going to be discontinuing this stitch, so we're going to work half doubles in those first 2 stitches, and you should have the back side facing, and what you're going to do is work back post double crochets in each stitch across. All right, no matter what the stitch is, we're just going to even them all out with back post double crochets again all the way across. The last 2 stitches will be 2 half doubles, so work 2 half doubles. So go ahead and work that all the way across. This is what you should have after completing 125 rows, and this particular attention is on stripe number 12. Okay, so now it's time for us to change to our larger crochet hook. This would be the I or 9 or 5.50 millimeter crochet hook, and this is going to be the low front ridge that we've worked many times before, like here. And we're just going to work a chain 1, skip that first stitch, and then a slip stitch, working only in that front loop. And we're going to do this just on the stripe portion, and then when you get to the end of that where we meet the blue field, we just fasten off. So go ahead and work this row. Actually, it's just worked over those 143 stitches. So go ahead and finish that, fasten off, and then we're going to keep the same front side facing, and we'll join the red for our final stripe after we finish this. So I just wanted to show you that at the end of row 126, I'm just fastened off right here, just like we have been doing. And so now for row 127, we are going to be working in the remaining loop, and we're going to start all the way at the beginning again with the front side facing, and it'll just continue on from here and then on into the blue field section once I finish the stripe. Okay, so let's go ahead back to the beginning. So now we're going to start row 127, and we are back at the beginning where row 126 started, and again front side facing. Make sure that that is the case. So now to start row 127, we're going to work in the remaining loops, and if you're not sure which loop to start in, you can go ahead and look at the back side and you can see the remaining loops right there. So that is the one that we want to start with. And we're going to work our little slip knot. All right. I'm going to chain 2, and then we're going to work double crochet. So go ahead and work double crochets in each of those remaining loops. Okay, just like that. And we're going to work this all the way until we get to the blue field. When we get to the blue field, you switch out to the blue and continue in the double stitch. So go ahead and work row 127, and then go ahead and start row 128 and come back the other direction for that blue field, and then I will show you what to do after that to finish out this last stripe. Now we are going to continue with row 128. We've already worked the blue field, and we're going to do something very important here. We're going to change to the larger size hook, and we're going to return to working the ribbing, which is the same stitch that we used for the very first stripe of this project. Okay, so now we are going to work the ribbing, and we're going to start with that first stitch. Make sure you only work around the red yarn with the back post and then a front post, back post, and then a front post. And we're going to work this all the way across. You're going to end with a back post, and then you're going to work a half double crochet in the turning chain. All right, now for the rest of the rows, that would be rows 129 through 135. That is, after this row we'll work 7 additional rows, and what we're going to do is we're just going to work front post stitch over the front post, back post over the back post, so that you maintain the ribbing just like we did in that very first stripe. When you get to the blue field, this is what's going to be a little bit tricky. When you get to the blue field, go ahead and change to the smaller H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook, and then again you come back with this hook, and then when you hit that ribbing, change to the larger size hooks. Now if you just are thinking you're going to have a really hard time remembering that, put a stitch marker in that section just as a reminder, or you could tie a piece of yarn around your finger just to remind you. But just remember, because we're going to use the smaller hook on the blue field and then larger hook on the ribbing. Again, this is just to make sure that the stitches are even across the board, since the ribbing does tend to compress quite a bit. So go ahead and finish the remainder of those rows. Again, that's complete rows 128 through 135. So that will give you a total of 8 ribbing rows plus the foundation. So there will be a total of 9 red rows once you complete this section. And then after you finish those, we're just going to fasten off. You'll be fastening off on the blue field side, so you can go ahead and fasten off, and then we will begin working a trim that goes around the entire flag, and then we will also make our stars. So once you finish those rows, go ahead and use your yarn needle and a pair of sharp scissors and hide all the loose ends before we begin the perimeter rounds. For the perimeter rounds, I'm going to be using the barn color, or color number 123AW of the Lion Brand's local grown 100% wool. And I think it's going to add a nice frame to this design. Of course, if you want to add a different border, please feel free to vary it however you would like. But I think it is really important to put a border around this to help stabilize and just kind of make the project more coherent. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, for this round, I'm going to have the front side of the throw facing, and this is the very bottom stripe, and we're basically beginning at the beginning again. I'm using my size H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter hook, and I am going to start with a slip knot, chain 1, and then going back into that same space, I'm going to work single crochets in each stitch across. So across the bottom and top of the flag, this will be the long sections, long sides of the throw. We're going to have 240 stitches. So I'm going to work those off camera, and when we get to that section, we're going to be working on the end rows. So I am going to put a number down there. Now, if you need to add additional stitches for your flag, feel free to do that, but whatever number you use on the side, make sure that you use that same number of stitches on both sides so that this project will be as even as we can make it. Of course, at the end, once we finish this border completely, we are going to put this on the blocking mats and wet block the entire project. It will help bring a lot of these stripes and everything back into a better shape than what they may seem to be now. So go ahead and work this single crochet all the way around, and let me just speak into the corner. When you get to the corners, we're going to work a single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet in each of the corners around. That's a pretty simple thing to do. If you've gotten to this part in this project, you should be able to understand that without a visual on that one. So go ahead and I will show you what that looks like once I complete this round. Okay, I have completed the first perimeter round. I just wanted to show you for the corners, I would work a single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet worked into that same space. And every time you come to a corner on the next several rounds that we're going to work, you're going to work a stitch, which will be a half double crochet, a chain 2, and a half double crochet into this chain 2 space. Now let me give you some numbers regarding how many stitches I worked. Now, if you needed to work additional stitches or more than I did on the sides, that's fine, but you want to make sure that the stitches are crocheted evenly, since you're not working them in actual stitches like you are in the top and at the bottom of this throw. Okay, so on the short sides, I crocheted approximately, or actually exactly 159, but if you're off by 1 or 2 stitches, it's not going to be a deal breaker. But I want to also give you a strategy for working these stitches evenly. So what I've done is I counted how many stitches are on the last 7 stripes of the flag, and then I took that number is 85 single crochets crocheted along the edge. And so for the blue field section, so that we have these as evenly spaced as possible, what I did is I used stitch markers. I used a stitch marker to mark the center just by folding the blue field in half, and then I divided it into quarters or 4 sections. And if you take 85 and divide it by 4, you're going to realize that it's not going to divide evenly. But if you subtract 1, which I am counting the one that I worked in the corner, if you just subtract that from the number and you take 84 and divide it by 4, you're going to get 21. So what I did is I worked 21 stitches evenly in between the stitch markers, again, after I divided the blue field into quarters. So I'm just going into all that to just give you a strategy so that you don't have to crochet the stitches and then rip it out because it's off by a couple numbers, which can be very, very tiresome. So this way you can crochet in between those stitch markers and get a very, very close approximation. All right, so now let's continue on to the next round. Just to be as precise as possible, I'm going to just demonstrate how I'm connecting these at the end of the round. We're going to chain 2, and then I'm going to work a slip stitch to that very first stitch of the round. Now for round 2, we're going to work chain 2, and we're going to work half double crochets, just worked into each stitch around, which should be no problem because we already have the position for all of these stitches established. So go ahead and work all the way around, and when you get to the corners, we work a half double, chain 2, half double in all of those corners. All right, so go ahead and finish round 2. So after completing round 2, you should see that it is adding a more defined shape to your throw. Of course, we are going to block this at the very end, which will even make it nicer. Okay, now the next row that I'm going to show you is the row that we are going to do for the remainder of the perimeter rounds. So now for row 3, we are going to chain 2, and in the same stitch right here, you should see that where we joined, we're going to work in the 3rd loop, which is right here, and we're going to work a half double crochet. We're going to do that in each of these half double crochets all the way around. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us a really nice knit effect on these rounds. So by working, okay, in that back bar, they often call it. So what will happen is we're going to end up with rounds that look like this, and it's going to be a delightful way to frame this entire project to make it kind of look like a big picture frame. Okay, so again, in those, work only in the back bar. All right, so we're going to do that all the way around. When you get to the corners, we work the corners the same way with a half double, chain 2, and a half double worked in that chain 2 space. So go ahead and again look across the bottom of the screen, and I'll tell you how many of these rounds you're going to need to work. Of course, you can work fewer or more depending on your preference as to how you want the finishing edge to be. I've just finished the 6th round. This will be the 5th round using the half double crochets, and I just wanted to show you how nice this looks, and it's supposed to be resembling that of a picture frame. Now this is kind of a harsh straight edge, and I'm going to work one additional round. Now this is optional. If you don't feel like you need to do this, you don't have to, but I feel like I want to soften this just a bit along the edge, and it's going to be in the back, so it's not going to distract, you know, from our design here, but I think it's going to just kind of soften it a little bit. So let's go ahead. I've gone ahead and joined, and I've chained 1. This is for round 7, and we're still going to work in the back or the 3rd loop of that half double for this. And what we're going to do is we're going to work a single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet into the same space. This is actually similar to one of the rounds that we worked in the striped section when we worked the primrose, but it makes a really nice border. So we're going to skip the next stitch, and then the next stitch, again, single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet. Skip the next stitch, and then the next, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. And so we're going to work this all the way around, and when you get to the chain 2 space, work a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in that chain 2 space. But you can see how that just kind of softens it a little bit. It's not a loud, showy border, but just something to soften the harshness of the lines just a bit in the background. All right, so go ahead and work that, and when you, after you work the last stitch, which will be behind this half double, or actually we're going to skip that, we're going to work that corner and then just join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round right there. I'll show that to you. As we come to the last corner, the last chain 2 corner, we work a single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet just like we would for all of the corners. And rather than connecting to the first stitch, we're going to connect right here to the stitch from the last round, okay, and then give it a chain and a tug, and find a pair of sharp scissors and give that a nice long strand to be hidden with our yarn needle. Okay, so this is what the border now looks like. Okay, and just to review again, we have the initial connecting row, or foundation round rather, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 additional rounds, so that would be rounds 1 through 6, and then the last finishing round would be round 7. Okay, so we're going to go on and put this, going to hide all of the loose strands if I have any left over from the border, and then we're going to put this on some blocking boards. And meanwhile, we will also learn to work the stars. Now I have placed the entire flag onto blocking mats. You can see I'm a little short in that lower right corner, but I will remedy that in just a bit. I'm using blocking combs and my interlocking mats. Now the most important thing about this blocking process is that you get this blue field squared up. It's possible to do this. You just need to work with the fabric a little bit. And since we're using wool, once we wet block this, you know, spray it down a bit and let it dry completely, it will be in a beautiful shape. So this is very important that you do this to this particular project because we have so much going on here. So once you have your blanket into the shape that it needs to be, you can just simply spray it with some water and make sure that you get it nice and wet. Doesn't have to be absolutely sopping, but definitely make sure that it is, the fibers do, that the water does penetrate the fibers, and let it sit, let it dry overnight and to become thoroughly dry, and this will be in the shape that you need it to be in. For those who've never used knit blockers or blocking combs before, I got these on Amazon. I will put the link in the video description should you have need. And this is the smaller size. And just to show you how they all have these little prongs. Some of them are 8 prongs wide and much larger. And they really do help to secure the project. They're colorful so that you know where they are if you drop them, so that as opposed to small pins, which can easily get lost and then found in family members' feet, these things are just really worth the purchase price. And they also are made of a steel that will not rust, so it's not going to rust your project. So now we're going to be making our 50 stars, or however many you'd like to make. And we're going to start with the magic circle. And if you have a different technique from me on this, feel free to use it. Okay, this is just the way I like to do my magic circles. We wrap the yarn twice, pull up a loop, and I'm going to make a chain. And now I'm going to be working inside the circle. I'm sorry my yarn is so curly. But anyway, we're going to work 15 half double crochets worked into the circle. Okay, so how many do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, I'm going to pull up a loop. So now that we have all 15 stitches, I'm going to maintain tension somewhat on that circle, and I'm going to pull the tail gently. Okay, be gentle with this, because if you pull too hard, it will break the yarn. And we're going to pull until that circle in the middle is as small as we can get it, and that's good right there. Okay, now we're going to join to the very first stitch of the round with a slip stitch. I'm going to pull that a little bit. Now I'm going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is what we're going to do 5 times around. Slip stitch in that first stitch, single crochet in the next, half double crochet in that next stitch, and a double crochet in that next. So now this is the stitch where we joined. This is the next stitch, which we're going to skip, and then the next stitch we're going to work a slip stitch. Now we're going to work a slip stitch in the next stitch as well, and chain 5 again. Second chain from the hook, slip stitch, single crochet in the next, half double crochet in that next stitch, and a double crochet in the last stitch or the last chain. Skip the next stitch, slip stitch in the next stitch, slip stitch into the next stitch, and again chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, slip stitch, single crochet. Believe me, you'll be able to do this in your sleep when you finish these. Half double crochet and a double crochet. Skip the next stitch, slip stitch in the next stitch, and again another slip stitch, chain 5, and the second chain from the hook we work a slip stitch, then a single crochet, then a half double crochet, and then a double crochet. Let's just pause a minute so you see how these are graduating from small to larger stitches. Skip the next stitch, slip stitch in the next stitch, and then slip stitch into the next. Chain 5, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, and then a double crochet. Skip the next stitch, and then the last stitch, which is here, we work a slip stitch, give it a little tug, a chain, and then we're going to cut a generous strand to be hidden on the back side. Okay, so, and this is the star that it produces. Now once you hide this stitch into the back, then you can just actually just trim this stitch, because that was the magic circle, and that should be very secure. All right, so we're going to hide this. As you can see, these are very curly, so these are going to need to be blocked. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, one other thing, if you want these stars to be a little bit smaller, use a smaller size hook, 4.5 or the 4.0 millimeter crochet hook. That would be an F, or even go down to an E if you would like, or a G rather. So go ahead and make your 50 stars, and then I will show you how to block these. All right, I'm in my kitchen and I have a lot of my stars, and they look like this originally. And so what we're going to do is we're going to wet block them. We're going to go ahead and put them into some warm water here. I'm going to squeeze them out. So now after I've squeezed this out, I'm going to pin this to the board, and I'm making use of the points on this grid to try to get these as even as I can. Okay, so let's put that one there, that one there. That looks about even for a star. I can always play with it a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the rest of these stars, squish them out, and then again place them on a mat in a similar arrangement. Okay, and that way they will be similar when we attach them to our flag. Let's put that there, and here. And by doing this, once they dry, they will not be all curled up. They'll be a very, very nice shape for us to attach. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is let these dry about overnight, maybe 12 hours, and they should be fine. And then I'll take them out and then apply them to our flag. All right, I have placed my 50 stars in what I think is a very accurate configuration. Now let me show you a simple hack that I think will help you to get this done as quickly and as efficiently as possible. I actually used the reference point as my crochet hook, but find something that's simple that you can find. And as you're laying out the foundational rows, which should be along the edges here, find something and then just use that to kind of gauge the distance between, let's say, the tip of the star and the center of the next star. And that's kind of what I did roughly, just to begin. I paid particular attention to how far from the edges here and here, just to start. You also can notice that I still have this in the blocked configuration. I have not removed this. It's nice and dry, but I have not removed this from my blocking board. And that is because I'm going to use fabric glue to adhere the stars to the flag. It is kind of a cheat in a way, but I think it's going to be very effective, and maybe even more so than sewing them by hand, especially since that's not my better skills. Okay, so what I'm also recommending that you do, and as you place the stars together, take a string, okay, kind of like a plumb line, so to speak, but we're going to use it in a horizontal fashion. So what you can do is kind of eyeball, once you get things kind of arranged, and I'm also pinning them into place. Let me show you the pin. I'm also using T-pins to pin the stars into place so that, you know, disaster doesn't strike and they start to move around on me. Then what you can do is take your plumb line, so to speak, and line up the centers, okay? And you can just kind of eyeball it and to see that, okay, where there might be some inconsistencies. You can do this aligning them just as you go down the lines. And also I'd recommend that you do a vertical check as well. Now, of course, these are not going to line up 100% perfectly because none of us are machines. And the stars, even though I tried to make them all the same, there are slight variations in them, but that's just part of the craft. But definitely use your horizontal plumb line, just a piece of string, and line up the centers as best you can. And then when you see a little inconsistency, just kind of move it up a little bit. And then also cross-reference going the other direction, you know, both diagonally and vertically and horizontally. And then once you get that kind of where you want it to be, then we're ready to do the scary part and get out our fabric glue. That's what I'm going to do right now. There are many different kinds on the market. I'm going to be using this particular brand. Again, you don't have to follow me in being brand centric. If you are already familiar with a fabric fusion or a fabric glue that you're very happy with, feel free to use that. Okay, this is 100% washable. And just for the reference, I have used this on my jeans jackets, on 2 of them, which I wear a lot. I've crocheted sections and then glued them to my jacket, and I enjoy wearing them very much. And it has stayed on for a good 1.5 to 2 years, not a problem. All right, so I have a lot of confidence in this particular item here. Well, let's go ahead and I'm gonna start gluing. So now for gluing, I was very generous to go over all of the edges, especially the points and a bit in the center. So now I'm gonna turn this and put it right there. Let me get my plumb line and check to make sure that it's where I want it to be. I believe it is. And I'm gonna just press it down. Just like that, into the fabric. Okay, make sure, and if you didn't put enough on here and there, you can even, you know, just kind of dab, you know, a little bit, you know, underneath, you know, the points, if you feel like that's necessary. But you definitely want the points of those stars to be secure, all right? Also, I should mention, be very careful to read the instructions on whichever bottle of glue that you use or whatever method you use. And this, I believe, takes about 24 hours drying time, and you're gonna wanna just leave it sit on the blocking board for about that amount of time. I wouldn't remove it until this is just solidly adhered to the blanket. All of the stars have been glued into place, and I'm going to let this dry for 24 hours. You may want to just double check to make sure that all the tips of the stars are adhered to the blanket, because those are the places that are going to be a problem. Now, if you're not totally confident in gluing them down, I would still recommend gluing these down. And what you can do, if you want to even just sew the tips of these onto the blanket, you can, but I don't really think it's going to be required. And what you can do is let this dry 24 hours and check everything. And if you feel like you need to just go back, I can see now that I'm going to need to go back and just double check by putting just a tad more glue in place on a couple of these tips, like right here. I think this is going to be very beneficial to do that. So anyway, again, give it a break, let it dry for 24 hours, and I'll show you what we have. I hope you enjoyed this project with me, the Heirloom American Flag. If you did, I would love, love, love to hear from you. Please feel free to comment in the comment section below. And if you have completed your project and would like to send me a photo, I would absolutely love to see it. You can email that to me at bonniebay@me.com. Thank you all for participating with this project, and may God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.